All right, the last transformation lesson we're doing are dilations, okay? So remember, just a quick review, reflections is when you flip a figure, translation is when you slide it, rotation is when you turn it. A dilation is like when you get your eyes dilated. You make something bigger or smaller. I actually think this is probably one of the easier lessons that we've done. So it says a dilation of half about the origin. So here's all you have to do here. To get the new coordinates of the vertice, all you do is take the value and you multiply them all by half. That's it. Okay? And that's going to give you a new point. So J apostrophe would be at -1/2 and -1. K apostrophe, if you do -3 times 1/2, would be -3/2. Now, how do you write that? You could write it like that. You could write it as -1.5, or you could write it as -1.5. Any of those are fine. If I were graphing, I would probably use the decimal form. But again, it's completely up to you what you want to do. And then 2 times 1/2 would be 1. So L apostrophe multiplied by half, 2 times 1/2 is 1, 1. And then M apostrophe, 4 times 1/2 is 2. -1 times 1/2 is -1/2. That's all you do. Okay, what about this? 1.5 about the origin. Now you multiply it times 1.5. So J apostrophe would be, if you do 1.5 times 2, so you may want to get your calculator out, but if you do that, you're going to get 3. Okay, do 2 times 1.5, and you get 3 again. So that's going to be where your new point is. So it's just taking a point and it's stretching it, making it bigger. So there are 2 types of dilations. One where things get smaller or bigger. If you multiply by a fraction that's smaller than 1, it's going to get smaller. So all these number values got smaller here. If you multiply by a number bigger than 1, then it's going to get bigger. Okay, what about here? We're multiplying by 2, so what's going to happen? They're all going to get bigger. So multiply by 2. I don't know if the times symbol helps any. -1 times 2 would be -2, -2. C apostrophe, -1 times 2 would be -2. 2 times 2 would be 4. So these are pretty easy, in my opinion. 0 times 2 is just still 0. 2 times 2 is 4. A apostrophe, +1 times 2 is 2. 0 times 2 is still 0. So that's where your new points would be. All right, now, what about graphing given the dilation? So it says graph the image of the figure. So you don't actually have to graph these original points here, okay? You just need to find the new points. So how do you do that? Exactly what we did at the top. You're going to take it and multiply everything by 1.5. So where would U apostrophe be? -2 times 1.5 would be -3. -1 times 1.5 would be -1.5. So I just put that on here. So -3, -1.5 would be there. V apostrophe, 0 times 1.5, and then 1 times 1.5. So that would be right here. And then W apostrophe, 3 times 1.5 would be 4.5. Oops. And then 0. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4.5, 0. There's W apostrophe, and there's our dilated triangle. Okay. So just to make sure, I'm just going to graph the original points. So -2, -1, there was the original U, 0, 1, and then 1, 2, 3. So did our original shape get bigger? Well, yeah, it did get bigger. Why? Because we multiplied by a number bigger than 1. Okay, so what's going to happen to this one? It's also going to get bigger. So again, I'm just going to do, this time, the dilation itself. So that's going to be negative 1.5, and that's going to be negative 3, 0, 3, and G apostrophe be 3 and 1.5. So I put those points, 1, 2, 3. So there's E apostrophe, 2, 3, there's F apostrophe, G, 1, 2, 3, 1.5, G apostrophe, and then connect those. There's your dilation.